Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation of new features in the LOLI database. My name is Nathan Peters. I am the Marketing Director at ChemADVISOR, and I will be serving as your host for this event. We'll be using GoToWebinar for this event. That means on the right-hand side of your screen you should see the GoToWebinar dashboard. On the GoToWebinar dashboard you do have options for communicating with us. In particular, I'd like to point out the Questions tab. On the Questions tab, you will be able to submit questions, and at the end of the presentation I will take a limited number of questions if time allows. All questions will be responded to by email after the event. A copy of this presentation will be made available on ChemADVISOR's YouTube channel, ChemADVISOR TV. In addition, you can, whenever you would like, contact ChemADVISOR and we will be happy to schedule a demonstration of whatever features you're interested in. You can contact us at info@chemadvisor.com, or you can call us at 412-847-2000. Now, I suspect from my registration list that many of you are already familiar with the LOLI database in some capacity. You're using it directly through our ChemADVISOR Online, LOLI in the Cloud, LOLI desktop applications, or you are using it through a partner application to power a SDS authoring software, a environmental reporting software, in some other way. That said, I do want to briefly review what is available in the LOLI database, what it is, and what it contains, and then I'm going to talk about what we've been developing over the past few months for inclusion in the LOLI database. Now, LOLI stands for List of Lists. It's a collection of regulatory and advisory information on chemical substances. It is a substance-specific database, and you get your best results when you have a clear substance identity. As of the most recent release, the January 1st, 2017 release of the LOLI database, we have over 5,700 lists. As a point of comparison, 10 years ago, that number was more like 1,200. So we've more than quadrupled the size of the database over those years. That is in part due to the diligence and awareness of our experts who collect this information, but it's also a reflection of the incredible change that has taken place in the EHS environment over the past decade. We don't subdivide the database, so when you get access to the whole thing. That means if you are using it through any partner application, you are using the entire database. That's all available to you. You might not be pulling it all in, but it is there. The coverage is global. We are capturing information from all over the world. In North America, we go to both the state and federal level. In the United States, in Canada, we're getting both the provincial and federal level. In Europe, we're getting the member states and non-member states. Generally speaking, if a country isn't included in the database, that's an indicator that they don't have chemical control requirements. That's basically where they're at from a regulatory standpoint. In addition to the data itself, there are some important pieces of supplementary information in the database. This is also where many of the recent changes have occurred, so I want to make sure you're aware of these parts. The list header explains who wrote a list, why they wrote it, how they intend it to be used. Chemical synonyms and chemical data translations are bits of information that are taken from the original source. In the case of chemical synonyms, these are both scientific and non-scientific trade names for chemicals, as well as non-English names for chemicals. In the case of chemical data, these are those pieces of textual information that are included in the data field of the LOLI database. When that information is published in non-English format, we are capturing that and making it available. For both the chemical synonyms and the chemical data, we aren't sending out lists of information to be translated. We are capturing this information directly from the source materials. Generic links are those situations where a chemical substance is regulated by category as opposed to by specific substance identity. A real common example of this are metal compounds. So, for example, mercury compounds, cadmium compounds, you're going to see those regulated by generic link as opposed to specific substance identity. Generic links is an important consideration when you're working with the LOLI database. If this is an area of interest to you, I strongly encourage you to take a look at either our website, ChemADVISOR.com, or our YouTube channel, ChemADVISOR TV. We have a 1-hour presentation that's available on both of those locations dealing with generic links, explaining how they're used, why they're done the way they are, and how you should interpret information that's brought in by generic links. This is a critical part of the LOLI database, especially when you're dealing with substances that might have little published information or substances that are heavily regulated by the category they fall into, such as metal compounds. Now, in addition to just the source information, of course, whenever you look at the LOLI database, we are reflecting a published set of information, a source. But we are providing more than just the source information. Probably the single biggest thing you get when you subscribe to the LOLI database is the constant monitoring of the source for changes. This information is updated regularly. I've seen some estimates saying that every quarter approximately a third of the lists in the LOLI database are updated. And so, what you're relying on ChemADVISOR for is not just the data, but how this information changes over time. It is a CAS organized database. It uses CAS numbers as the primary field for doing searches. As such, whenever information is published, the first step is to associate the chemical identifier as published with a CAS number. Now, that isn't always done automatically by the publishing source. There are many situations where a list of chemicals is published without an associated CAS number. So the very first thing we're going to do is make that association. In addition to being the publisher of the LOLI database, we are also a heavy user of the LOLI database. We write SDSs, we write labels, we do product evaluations, we do other work associated with chemical information. As such, we are able to identify errors and typos in the database. When a source is published and perhaps information is out of place, we are able to go back to those source materials and confirm what was intended, document that, and make that information available in the database. So, for example, if a source is published with, say, a decimal point in the wrong place or a misspelling in a chemical name, we're able to identify that and make sure that the proper information is available in the database. It is an English language database. That does mean that if you speak English, you are able to consume everything in the database. That's critical for things like, say, Chinese lists or Japanese lists that aren't necessarily published with a associated English language translation. This gives you the ability to quickly and easily gain access to that content. And the database is standardized. In some ways this is obvious, but it does have a number of impacts. You are able to get it in a single format, SQL Server database that you can use for integration or for other work. It also means that we harmonize the data, so that when information is published in different formats, we are able to take that and put it in kind of a common language. Probably where this is most pronounced is in what we call the GHS Standardized View. We take GHS publications and we publish it as a government has published it. So when you look at Korea or New Zealand or Australia, we're going to publish those GHS classifications as that country has published their classifications. But then we take that information and we translate it into a standard UN Purple Book view. This is called the GHS Standardized View, and that is also available as part of your search results. Now, as I indicated earlier, most of you on the line are existing subscribers to the LOLI database. You're either getting the LOLI data feed, which is used to integrate with another piece of software, either an internally developed piece of software or a partner software, or you're accessing using LOLI Desktop or LOLI in the cloud. LOLI Desktop and LOLI in the cloud have the same user interface. The difference is where the database resides. In LOLI Desktop, it's behind your firewall. In LOLI in the cloud, it's on a server hosted by ChemADVISOR. As I said earlier, this information is updated regularly. The online versions, so ChemADVISOR Online, LOLI in the cloud, also we do have a REST application, a web service. That information is published every week. So if you are interested in frequent updates, the LOLI in the cloud or the web service are available to you. If you don't currently have access and you want to talk about that, please send us a message. We'd love to introduce these to you. These are available options. Otherwise, for the desktop data feed and our other supported applications, this update is done once a quarter. The reason for that is basically the OSHA requirement for a 90-day update. OSHA says that as new information is available, you have to incorporate it within 90 days of its publication. That has led to an industry standard of quarterly updates: January, April, July, and October. And the fact of the matter is, more frequent updates means a more frequent management of change problem. So most people are satisfied with having the quarterly updates, and that has been the standard. Delivery is done mostly by download. So, if you're currently getting a physical CD delivery and you want to move to download, that can be done at no cost. That can happen pretty much immediately, and we'd be happy to support that. Okay, so that's a quick review of the LOLI database itself. Now I want to talk about some of the new features. Over the past 6 months, we've been developing some new features for inclusion in the LOLI database. This information, the first three, I should say, are included in the January 1st, 2017 release or earlier. So you should already have access to these features in the LOLI Desktop, LOLI in the Cloud applications. The LOLI Analytics are not yet released. We are in the process of refining those, but we did want to bring them to your attention and seek comment or give you the opportunity to test out this feature. Now I'm going to talk about each of these in turn. We've expanded the ability to view the information on generic links. In previous versions of the LOLI database, you only got to see what links were attached to a given substance. We now allow that view to happen both ways. So you can see what links are associated with a substance. You can also see what substances are associated with a given link. Now, if you are on our mailing list or you follow our blog or other activities, you would have heard recently about ChemADVISOR Navigator. ChemADVISOR Navigator is a tool dealing with country-specific chemical requirements as opposed to substance-specific chemical requirements. It's a slightly different prism to view information. It means you see slightly different information. But the fact of the matter is LOLI and Navigator are highly complementary. The two products work very closely together, and Navigator helps you better understand LOLI data, and LOLI data provides a much more substance-relevant view of chemical regulatory information. In the January release, we have connected these two products. So in the list header, you now have a link between Navigator and the LOLI database. And this is a way for you to kind of, especially if you're subscription to both, you now have the ability to toggle between the two and use that as an opportunity to expand your understanding. LOLI Compare is a new tool we've developed to help you do a better job at looking at country-specific GHS classifications. This tool was developed specifically for the question of GHS classifications, and it recognizes that different countries publish different GHS classifications, and joke is, right, the globally harmonized system is neither global nor harmonized. It is a system, however, and it allows you to do a kind of apples-to-apples comparison for classifications. So LOLI Compare lets you quickly and easily view that information and help you in that decision-making process. Finally, LOLI Analytics are a quick way of determining the regulatory burden for a chemical substance. Basically, the head of our IT team, Ray Andrick, was able to develop a rating system, which we can provide details if you're of that sort and want to dig into how this happens. But basically translate all those results you get in the LOLI database to a single indicator. We use circles, so circles of various sizes and colors helps you to get an idea of what the regulatory burden is. This can also be translated into a number if you are using an application and you want to use numbers. That's also a possibility. The LOLI Analytics was developed as a mobile app, so it is used on your smartphone as an application. The logic, however, is developed, and if you wanted to use it integrated with one of your systems, that's available as well. So what I want to do now is move out of my presentation and go into the LOLI desktop application. So this is LOLI desktop. I want to point out a couple of items here. First, let's talk about the ability to look at multiple linked substances. When you do a search for a category in the database, this is an example of a result. So I did a search on phenols. That brought up our number 03842-6. Now, if you select that name and you right-click, you'll bring up a couple of options. The one I want to highlight here is the Show Links option. When you click Show Links, you're going to bring up a list of links, and then you have to activate the Show Cast Numbers link. And here you go. These are all of the cast numbers that are associated with the category of phenols. This is just another view, something that was not available previously, but is available now. Gives you a greater opportunity to understand how linked substances work. Okay. The next thing I want to bring up are the links to Navigator. This is the EU CLP list for carcinogens. Here I've gone to the list view and simply drilled down to European Union legislation, classification and labeling. And then here I've selected the carcinogenicity list. If you're familiar, you use the little caret to open and close the list header. And now you can see on the list header, first, just to review, the categorization of the list, the source, the review information, when it was last reviewed. Review means when it was last looked at by one of our experts. Update is when it was last changed. So review should always be in the previous quarter. Update will depend upon when that list has actually changed. The list abstract is a 1 to 2 sentence description of the list. This is reflected in the LOLI update document that you get every quarter. And then the document is a more lengthy description of what this list is trying to tell you. Who wrote it, why, how they intend it to be used, how they intend this information to be understood. Beneath the document, we have a source link. The source link will allow you to go back to the original text of the regulation. And then the Navigator link will allow you to go to the associated location in Navigator to be able to view the relevant information. Apparently having a website problem. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to the LOLI Compare feature. LOLI Compare uses a single CAS number. So you select the CAS number. In this case, I've done a search on formaldehyde 50-00-0. And these are the results I get back. When you look at these results, we've added a couple of things to help make this a little clearer. First, information that is harmonized. So harmonized basically means published the same in all places where there is a publication are bolded. So you can quickly scan and see that the flammable gases, the gases under pressure, the corrosive metals, the respiratory sensitizers, acute tox, terrestrial soil ecotox, and terrestrial vertebrate ecotox are all the same for all published classifications. For everywhere else, you'll see the blue. And the blue basically means there is variability in published information. A more serious hazard is in the darker color. So you'll see here that ones are the darkest, category ones are the darkest color, and fours are the lighter color. So as you have Cat 4, you're going to see less highlighting. The whole purpose here is to give you the opportunity to scan and review and see how this information might be similar or different. You can take a look and say, okay, for skin sensitization, we're probably okay going with the 1, category 1 for that substance. It is published slightly differently, but for the most part, it's probably a safe choice. But you'll see when you look at something like, say, the acute tox dermal, you have some homework to do. That is not at all harmonized. You see Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 as classifications here. This indicates that you probably have to do some research, have to figure out what the appropriate classification for your situation would be. You can go ahead in and you can do a search on anything. So here I'm going to do another search on zinc oxide. Kind of another set of results. You'll see this is mostly harmonized. Most of the published information is the same across jurisdictions. There is one endpoint, the specific target organ toxicity, that is published differently. So again, a situation where you can now make a comparison. You can have the information you need to be able to perform that evaluation. Okay. The last new feature that I want to show is the ChemADVISOR Analytics. As I said, ChemADVISOR Analytics is a mobile app. So it's really best seen on your phone or on your tablet. However, the guys in IT were able to create a interface for me to use in this demo. So that's what I'm bringing up here. You can enter a name or a CAS number. It is designed to be a relatively easy user interface. That internet problem is coming back. I apologize. Let's try this differently. There you go. That was a little better. And you'll see we'll get the results showing a circle. I've got a selection of phenols here that are somewhat interesting. These are all very similar chemical chemical formulas. And so by conducting these searches, you're able to see how these regulatory burdens might come off differently. And we've designed this, we've hoped to make this fairly intuitive. So where you see the red and where you see the larger circles, you're talking about larger regulatory burdens. Yellow, moderate burdens, and small and green means relatively light regulatory burdens. This is a tool that allows you to, the initial use that we've considered is doing substitutions, allowing you to evaluate different chemical substances and determine which one has the lighter regulatory burden, and use that as a factor in determining which chemical substance you might use when doing development work. But we certainly want to throw this out to our installation base, to the users of the LOLI database, and kind of get your feedback on how to refine this product. Substitutions is certainly one use. We suspect there's other ways you can take advantage of this information as well, but we wanted to engage in a conversation with our users to get that understanding. Now, as I said, the first three, the LOLI Compare, the links to Navigator, and the features for generic links are included as part of your existing LOLI subscription. If you have access to LOLI in the cloud or LOLI desktop, you have access to this information now. This information is also available in the data feed. We would want to put you in touch with one of our developers if you're using a data feed and you want to integrate this content into your features. Again, happy to provide that support. We just need to get the conversation between the right individuals. Finally, LOLI Analytics is still in development phase, but we're looking here for the opportunity to discuss with our users and get an understanding of how you might want to see this information included in LOLI, or how you might want to see it used in your applications. All of these, if you don't know how to access them right now, we're able to help you. I would encourage you to contact us. My contact information is right here. I'm located in our Pittsburgh office at 412-847-2000. We also have offices in Brussels and in Singapore. And you can always reach us at www.ChemADVISOR.com or info@ChemADVISOR.com. To answer a couple of your questions, first, a copy of this presentation will be made available on ChemADVISOR TV. That is our YouTube channel, so you can happily take a look there. In addition, I would be happy to schedule a one-to-one conversation with anyone who wants to see these in a private setting. So if you'd like to get your hands on this, have a more in-depth conversation about your specific use, we are happy to set that up. Please just contact us. Access to this content is all free. If you have access to the LOLI database, you have access to this. There are no price increases associated with these new features. They are part of the most recent release, and so you should have access to this now if you have access to the LOLI database. If you're not sure, you can contact us, contact our support team. We will make sure that you receive the most recent version of LOLI Desktop, or that you receive the most recent LOLI data feed that will allow you to take advantage of this information. Okay. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this webinar. We've gone about half an hour, which is what I was targeting. Again, I encourage you to send us your questions. We will be happy to answer them by email, or also address that information in a private conversation. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your interest. Have a good day.